for Alexandra Eala. Listen to that noise. Thank you, Jasmine, she says. Paolini gracious as ever in defeat. The former champion is out. Alexandra Eala. What are you going to do next?
Oh my God.
Alex, I think everyone here is waiting to hear from you. You looked incredibly locked in throughout that match. You let the racket do the talking, and you managed your emotions so well. Just tell us your first thoughts after that win.
Oh, all the emotions are coming because the tension was so high, especially during that second set. So I'm really happy to have gotten through. She's a great opponent, obviously being top 10 and a former champion here. So to be able to compete with her at this level is a great achievement for me. Yeah.
Huge intentional cover-up is happening in mainstream tennis media right now. And if you are not watching the real numbers, you are going to get played. When you wake up tomorrow and scan the sports headlines, or you turn on the regular tennis broadcast networks, they will hand you a neat little story that sounds easy and reasonable, but it will be completely made up. They will look at the scoreboard, notice that Jasmine Paolini, the veteran, the established star, the player with the number 6 ranking next to her name, lost the match, and they will push the same tired excuse. They will claim she had an off day, then they will add the usual filler like tricky conditions, court speed, mid-season fatigue, or she couldn't find her forehand rhythm. None of that is the real story. And anyone repeating it is either not doing their homework, or they are protecting the old narrative. Right now, I am staring at a stat sheet straight from center court, and it tells a completely different and honestly scary story about what this means for the immediate future of the Women's Tennis Association. I need you to stop what you are doing, stop scrolling, and lock in on what just happened out there, because Alexandra Eala did not stumble into a lucky upset. Eala did not catch a top player napping, and she did not survive on a few random points. What happened was a tactical, psychological, and mathematical dismantling that snapped a top 10 level opponent's plan in half, and she pulled it off while carrying a flaw in her own game that should have gotten her punished hard. Why? To understand why this match is sending shockwaves through the locker room and why top coaches are already scrambling to rewatch the tape, you have to start with the first set and treat it like the warning sign it is. Jasmine Paolini is not some unseeded wildcard who got a friendly draw in a lucky week. She is an elite, battle-tested veteran who earned her position and knows how to handle real pressure. Paolini knows how to pace herself, build points, and stay steady when a match gets tight. That type of player does not drop a set 61 unless something has gone badly wrong with the plan. And that scoreline is the foundation of this entire breakdown. You do not beat the number 6 player in the world 6-1 in a set, unless you are doing something that completely shuts them down from the start. A 6-1 set at this level is not a little wobble. It is a professional embarrassment because it means you got pushed around before you even had time to settle your feet and figure out the pattern. That is not a normal scoreboard. That is domination. And it tells you that the person on the other side did not just play well, they took control of the match with intention. But the real reason this match matters is deeper than the raw score, because when you look at how Eala actually won, the numbers start looking almost impossible. She took the first set 6-1, then survived a brutal second set and still closed it out 7-6 with a 75 tiebreak. And the way she did it does not line up with what should happen when a player is carrying a major weakness. Eala walked onto center court with a glaring, wide-open flaw today, the kind of flaw that usually ends a match quickly and painfully. In 99% of professional matches, that problem guarantees a fast, ugly loss. Yet she still managed to break down a top opponent mentally, using that same weakness like a shield instead of a target.
Another wonderful win for Alexandra Eala. Listen to that noise. Thank you, Jasmine, she says. Paolini gracious as ever in defeat. The former champion is out. Alexandra Eala. What are you going to do next?
Start with the illusion, because this is where most people will get fooled if they only glance at one stat. Look at Jasmine Paolini's serve numbers on paper, and one category makes it seem like she served great. Her first serve percentage was 74%, and that looks like control if you do not dig deeper. In modern women's tennis, landing nearly 3/4 of your first serves is supposed to put you in the driver's seat. That level of consistency is usually how a player dictates the tempo from the first strike, keeps the returner defending, and sets up the next ball before the rally even starts, which is why coaches love that number. But here is the the part that exposes what really happened, and it shows the tactical nerve Alexandra Eala played with. Eala saw that 74% first serve rate coming at her, and she treated it like it meant nothing because she understood what the pretty number was hiding. Look at Paolini's first serve win percentage, 51%, and that number changes everything once you absorb it. 51% means Paolini landed her best shot all day, her first serve, and still lost nearly half the points behind it. At this level, that should not happen unless the returner is ripping the serve apart, and the reason is simple. Eala returned with pure aggression and took the serve away as a weapon. Eala won 30 receiving points in this match compared to Paolini's 23. And that gap matters because it shows who controlled the first contact in the rallies. Eala quickly realized Paolini's first serve was more about placement than damage, meaning it looked sharp, hit spots, and stayed accurate, but it did not have enough bite to push her back. It did not carry the heavy topspin, it did not carry the penetrating pace, and it did not carry the weight needed to move a player like Eala off her position. Once Eala picked that up, she did not retreat to buy time, and she did not back up to the fence to defend, because that would have protected Paolini. She did the opposite, and that choice is brutal for any server. Eala stepped right up to the baseline, and likely even inside the baseline. Then she took the ball early, stole time, and forced Paolini to run immediately. That move flipped Paolini's best safe stat into her biggest problem. From Paolini's side, that kind of pressure is mentally draining, because you can do everything right on the serve, hear the clean contact, watch the ball land in the box, and then the return still comes back fast and deep. When that happens over and over, the server starts forcing more speed, overreaching for corners, and chasing a bigger serve that is not really there, and that spiral turns into errors and panic. That is what Eala built in the 6-1 first set, because she did not just block the first serve back, she attacked it like it was a second serve. Point by point, she stripped Paolini of the comfort she normally lives on, and once that comfort disappeared, the match swung hard.
Oh my God.
Alex, I think everyone here is waiting to hear from you. You looked incredibly locked in throughout that match. You let the racket do the talking, and you managed your emotions so well. Just tell us your first thoughts after that win.
Oh, all the emotions are coming because the tension was so high, especially during that second set. So I'm really happy to have gotten through. She's a great opponent, obviously being top 10 and a former champion here. So to be able to compete with her at this level is a great achievement for me. Yeah.
Now the story gets even crazier, because this is where the stat sheet shows why Alexandra Eala is a serious problem for the tour going forward. This is the detail many commentators either missed or ignored, and it is the reason this win is not just a one-off surprise. Eala's kryptonite in this match was her second serve. Look closely at Eala's second serve win percentage, 38%. And that number is not a small dip, it is a serious breakdown in a core part of the game. At WTA level, winning only 38% of your second serve points usually means the opponent is getting a green light to attack, and it turns every missed first serve into a near gift. When Eala missed her first serve, Paolini was able to step in, take control, and finish points with far less resistance. Put that next to Paolini's second serve success, because even in a match where she got crushed early, Paolini still won 69% of her own second serve points, and that difference normally tells you who wins. If you printed this stat sheet, covered the score, and removed the names, most coaches would look at 38% versus 69% and assume the player with 69% won comfortably, probably in straight sets. Winning a match like this while bleeding that many second serve points is considered close to impossible, especially against a top 10 level opponent who is seeded 6th in a major tournament. So the question becomes how Eala survived this long enough to force a second set tiebreak, then win that tiebreak 7-5, without that second serve collapsing the entire match. The answer comes down to the first strike and the decisions she made under pressure, because Eala understood exactly what was happening to her serve in real time. Now, a typical young player in that situation tightens up, plays safe, takes pace off the first serve just to avoid the second serve, and ends up serving not to lose. Eala went the opposite direction, and that choice is the reason this match looks like a warning sign instead of a fluke. She basically decided she was not going to live on a second serve today, and she put everything into the first delivery. Her first serve percentage was 77%, which meant she landed almost 80% of her first serves and did not give Paolini enough chances to feast on the weakness. Even more important, she did not tap the first serve in, because when she landed it, she won 73% of those points. That combination is the cover, because it hid the ugly part of the stat sheet by keeping the match on Eala's terms, and it kept Paolini from getting the repeated looks she needed to punish the second serve. The mental toughness behind that plan is the part people overlook, because every first serve becomes a pressure moment when you know a miss likely hands the opponent the advantage. Eala still stayed bold, stayed aggressive, and kept her rhythm, and that level of composure usually belongs to players who understand matches like veterans. Then there is the clutch side of it, because this match was not decided by pretty shot making. It was decided in the tight moments where players either take control or drift. Breakpoints tell that story clearly because Paolini created 4 breakpoint chances and converted 2, which is 50% solid but not dominant. Eala created 8 breakpoint opportunities and converted 4, and that is the difference between a player reacting and a player pushing. She kept pressure on Paolini's service games, and Paolini spent far too much time looking up at a scoreboard that was always leaning against her. The total points won back up the same story. Eala won 72 total points in the match, while Paolini won 57, and that plus 15-point gap is huge in any match that includes a second set tiebreak. A plus 15 differential does not come from luck or a couple of net chords. It comes from being the better player for long stretches. That is also why the bad day excuse falls apart, because Eala did not sneak through a few tight games. She took control and kept it. She returned harder, attacked earlier, and stayed sharper in the moments that decide matches. Another stat that shows how heavy Eala's momentum got is the maximum consecutive points won. At one stage, Eala won 8 consecutive points, which is basically 2 games at love back-to-back, and doing that against the number 6 player in the world is rare, because it requires both focus and non-stop execution. Paolini's maximum consecutive points won was 5, which shows she never reached the same peak control for the same length of time. Eala also won a maximum of 5 consecutive games, and that run nearly buried Paolini in the first set, because losing 5 straight games to a lower-ranked opponent is the kind of streak that breaks confidence fast. Service points won also tell a clear story, even with the ugly second serve number still sitting there. Eala won 42 points on her own serve, while Paolini won 34, and Eala won 8 service games to Paolini's 5. Eala hit 2 aces and Paolini hit 0, which is one more sign that Eala kept looking to take charge instead of waiting around. Even the mistake stats show discipline. Eala hit 2 double faults and Paolini hit 4, which matters because under pressure, double faults often reveal who is rushing and who is steady. Put all of this together and it stops looking like a random upset, because it becomes a pattern of control across the key categories. This is not just one match result. It is a loud warning that the established order is not safe. The top 10 cannot sleep through this, because if Alexandra Eala can play a match where her second serve falls apart, where she is losing points heavily on that second toss, and she can still blast the number 6 seed 6-1 in the first set, and then hold her nerve and finish a tight second set 7-6 with a 75 tiebreak, the rest of the tour has a real problem. Eala proved she does not need perfect tennis to beat an elite player, because she found a way to win while a major part of her game was failing. She relied on her mind, her aggressive baseline style, and her refusal to back up. Then she took Paolini's best-looking stat, figured out it was hollow, and turned it into the very thing that hurt her. So when you hear commentators say Paolini just had a bad day, remember what the numbers actually said. Remember the 38% second serve number, and remember the 51% win rate on Paolini's first serve, because the math does not lie even when people try to talk around it. I want your real thoughts on what this match means for Eala going forward, and whether this is the moment where her rise becomes impossible to ignore. Drop your analysis in the comments, because the mainstream coverage is already missing what actually happened here. If you want more deep dive, no-nonsense breakdowns that focus on the stats that decide matches instead of the fluffy storylines, hit like so this gets pushed, subscribe so you do not miss the next update on Eala's rise, turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next video.